We are not made to be alone. This is not a preference, not a weakness, not a romantic sentiment. It is a biological fact. For millennia, our survival as a species has depended on our ability to connect to form tribes, to rely on one another for safety. It's a presence of danger, a low-grade, chronic, and invisible state of alarm that, over time, doesn't just change your mood. It physically changes the architecture of your brain. Let us see how this profound human pain leaves its fingerprints on the very structures that make you who you are. It rewires your perception, reshapes your memories, and recalibrates your sense of reality. You may think you are just sad, or isolated, or that something is wrong with you. But the truth is, your brain is in survival mode. It has been conscripted into a silent, solitary war, and the battleground is you. For resources, for the simple, profound comfort of presence, to be cast out from the tribe was for our ancestors a death sentence. And your brain, that ancient, beautiful, and complex organ, has not forgotten this. It remembers this truth in its very wiring. So, when you are lonely, it doesn't just feel bad. It doesn't just register as a sad emotion. Your brain interprets it as the one thing it is programmed to avoid at all costs, a threat, a state of emergency. And this is the quiet, devastating secret of loneliness. It's not just an absence of people. Let's walk together, gently, into the inner landscape of a lonely brain. It begins in the watchtower. Deep in your brain is a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is your emotional smoke detector, your threat detection system. In a well-connected brain, the amygdala fires when there is a real, present danger. A delayed text message is perceived as abandonment. A simple social gathering feels like a high-stakes performance where you are certain to fail. Your brain is not trying to hurt you. It is trying to protect you. It's creating a state of social hypervigilance, constantly scanning for evidence to confirm its deepest fear, that you are not safe, that you will be cast out. Over time, this constant state of alert wears you down, making you more anxious, more defensive, and more likely to withdraw, reinforcing the very isolation that caused the problem in the first place. But in a brain steeped in chronic loneliness, this watchtower is on high alert, 24/7. It begins to see potential threats everywhere, especially in social situations. The brain, remembering that isolation is dangerous, starts to code other people not as potential sources of comfort, but as potential sources of rejection, misunderstanding, or pain. This is why loneliness creates a cruel paradox. You ache for connection, but the very act of reaching out feels terrifying. A neutral facial expression is interpreted as disapproval. While the watchtower is screaming danger, another part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, begins to change. Think of the prefrontal cortex as the wise, calm CEO of your brain. It's responsible for executive functions, decision-making, emotional regulation, impulse control, and understanding complex social cues. It is the part of the brain that can look at the amygdala's alarm and say, "It's okay, that's not a real tiger. We are safe." It provides the context, the reason, the calm. But chronic loneliness weakens the CEO. The connections between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala can become less efficient. The calming voice of reason struggles to be heard over the constant shouts of the alarm. This is why, when you are lonely, you might find it harder to regulate your emotions. Your brain has a fascinating network called the default mode network. You can think of it as the brain storyteller, its internal narrator. It activates when you're not focused on a specific task, when you're daydreaming, reflecting on the past, thinking about the future, or thinking about yourself. In a healthy brain, this network helps create a coherent sense of who you are. You might feel overwhelmed by sadness or anger. You might struggle to make decisions, feeling paralyzed by uncertainty. It becomes harder to accurately read social situations, feeding the cycle of misinterpretation and withdrawal. The part of your brain that is meant to be your anchor in the social world becomes weathered and strained, leaving you feeling adrift. Then there is the matter of your inner world, your sense of self. In a lonely brain, this network changes its story. It becomes overactive and tends to get stuck in a loop of negative self-reflection. It replays past rejections. It rehearses future failures. It ruminates on your flaws and shortcomings. The storyteller becomes a relentless critic, whispering that you are lonely because you are unworthy, unlovable, and fundamentally flawed. This isn't a moral failing, it is a neurological pattern. Your brain, trying to make sense of the pain of your isolation, creates a narrative to explain it, and that narrative is almost always one of self-blame. This makes it incredibly difficult to see yourself clearly and to build the self-esteem needed to break the cycle. And what about pleasure? What about motivation? The lonely brain struggles here, too. Connection with others, a hug, a shared laugh, a moment of understanding releases a cocktail of wonderful neurochemicals, particularly dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward, and oxytocin, the hormone of bonding and trust. These chemicals make social connection feel good, reinforcing our desire to seek it out. Chronic loneliness disrupts this reward system. The brain can become less sensitive to dopamine, meaning that things that used to bring you joy, including social interaction, may start to feel flat and unrewarding. The hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain, is crucial for forming and retrieving long-term memories. It's the brain's librarian. Social interaction is like a workout for the hippocampus. It requires you to pay attention, to process information, to recall names and stories, to engage multiple senses. It keeps your memory sharp and vibrant. You lose your motivation to engage with the world. Furthermore, the oxytocin system can become dysregulated. Studies have shown that prolonged loneliness is linked to a physical shrinking of the hippocampus and an accelerated rate of cognitive decline. Instead of promoting trust, it can actually heighten the anxiety around social encounters. Your brain's chemical incentives for connection are dampened, while the fear signals are amplified. This is the neurochemical trap of loneliness. The very thing you need is the thing your brain has stopped rewarding you for, and may even be punishing you for seeking. Perhaps most poignantly, loneliness changes the way you remember. When you are isolated, this vital part of your brain gets less exercise. Studies have shown that prolonged loneliness is linked to a physical shrinking of the hippocampus and an accelerated rate of cognitive decline. Your memories may become foggier, your thinking less sharp. This is one of the most devastating physical consequences of a lonely brain and a primary reason why loneliness is now considered a major risk factor for developing dementia and Alzheimer's disease later in life. Your brain, like your muscles, needs engagement to stay healthy, and meaningful social connection is one of its most essential nutrients. Here is the hope. Your brain, in its incredible capacity to change in response to loneliness, also holds an incredible capacity to change in response to connection. This is the power of neuroplasticity. The same pathways that have been weakened can be strengthened. The same circuits that have been rewired for threat can be rewired for safety and belonging. So, when you feel that deep, hollow ache of loneliness, know that it is not just in your head. It is physically inscribed on your head, on your brain. The hypervigilance, the emotional dysregulation, the negative self-talk, the lack of motivation, the foggy memory, these are not your faults. They are the physiological symptoms of a brain in distress. It begins with the gentle, quiet work of signaling safety to your own nervous system. It starts with small moments of connection, even with yourself. The practice of self-compassion begins to quiet the overactive storyteller in your default mode network. Spending time in nature, engaging your senses, can calm the amygdala's alarm. They are the predictable consequences of a system deprived of its most fundamental need. But here is the most important part of the story. It does not happen overnight. And it does not begin with the monumental task of making friends. It begins with the gentle, quiet work of signaling safety to your own nervous system. It starts with small moments of connection, even with yourself. The practice of self-compassion begins to quiet the overactive storyteller in your default mode network. Spending time in nature, engaging your senses, can calm the amygdala's alarm. Small, positive interactions, a brief, friendly chat with a cashier, a shared smile with a stranger can begin to gently reactivate your brain's social reward system. It's about understanding that your brain has learned to be a fortress, and you cannot simply command the guards to stand down. You must, slowly and patiently, show them that the war is over. The pain of your loneliness is real, and its effects are physical, but they are not a life sentence. They are a map, a distress signal pointing you back toward a fundamental human truth. We need each other, we heal in community. We are, and have always been, wired for connection. You must convince them, through new experiences, that connection is no longer a threat, but a source of nourishment. Each small step, each moment of reaching out, helps to rebuild those weakened neural pathways. It coaxes the wise CEO in your prefrontal cortex back to full strength. It reminds your hippocampus how to catalog joyful memories. It teaches your brain, cell by beautiful cell, how to feel safe in the world again. You are a social being. Your brain is a social organ. Its health is inextricably linked to the health of your connections.